Mommy, please wake up. Mommy, please don't leave me. A 7-year-old girl knelt in the mud rain, hammering her tiny body, her hands covered in her mother's blood. Gasoline pooled beneath the wreckage. Sparks flew from the engine. 40 feet away, 6 Hell's Angels sat on their motorcycles watching. The world had called them criminals, outlaws, monsters, men without souls. But in the next 60 seconds, these 6 men would make a choice that defied everything the world believed about them. A choice that would cost them blood, nearly cost them their lives, and save a mother and daughter from certain death. Subscribe now. Stay until the end. Drop your city in the comments. Let me see how far this story reaches. Iron hadn't spoken in 4 hours. His brothers knew better than to push. When Thomas Reed went silent, you let him be. You rode behind him, you watched his back, and you waited for him to come out of whatever darkness had swallowed him. Tonight, that darkness had a name. Danny Martinez. Crossfire. 34 years old. 2 bullets in the chest outside a bar in Billings. Dead before the ambulance arrived. Iron had held him, felt the blood soak through his jeans. Watched the light leave Danny's eyes while sirens screamed in the distance, always too late, always too damn late. "Tell my boy I loved him," Danny had whispered. "Tell him I tried to be better." Then nothing. That was 3 days ago. They'd buried him this morning. Now 6 Hell's Angels rode through a Montana thunderstorm, heading home to a clubhouse that would feel emptier than it had in years. Bear pulled alongside Iron, shouting over the rain, "We need to stop. Can't see 20 feet ahead." Iron didn't turn. "We ride, so." Brother Razor's struggling back there. Kid's never seen weather like this. Then he learns tonight. Bear fell back, shaking his head. Ghost caught his eye and mouthed, "How bad?" Bear held up 5 fingers. Scale of 1 to 10. Iron was at a 5, which meant he was barely functional, which meant pushing him right now was like poking a wounded grizzly. They kept riding. Lily Anderson loved 3 things more than anything in the world: chocolate ice cream, her stuffed rabbit named Mr. Buttons, and her mother. Tonight she'd gotten 2 out of 3. Chocolate ice cream after her ballet recital, and her mom singing their favorite song on the drive home, the one about angels watching over you in the dark. Grandma used to sing it. Now Mama did. "Mommy, can I have more ice cream tomorrow?" Sarah laughed, glancing in the rearview mirror. "You've got chocolate all over your tutu, baby." "I know, it makes me look fancy." "It makes you look like a chocolate monster." "A fancy chocolate monster." Sarah shook her head, still smiling. God, she loved this kid. 7 years old and already sharper than most adults. Lily was the reason Sarah got out of bed every morning. The reason she worked double shifts at the diner. The reason she kept fighting when life kept knocking her down. David had left when Lily was 2, just packed his bags and vanished. No note, no explanation, no child support. Sarah had cried for 3 days, then dried her tears and got to work. She didn't need him. She had Lily. That was enough. "Mommy, what's—" The deer appeared from nowhere. Sarah yanked the wheel. Tires screamed. The car spun once, twice, impact. Glass exploding. Metal screaming. Lily's voice cutting through the chaos. Then silence. Lily opened her eyes to darkness. Her head hurt. Something warm ran down her face. She touched it. Red. "Mommy," no answer. "Mommy," she tried to move. Her seatbelt was jammed. She pulled and pulled until her fingers ached, and finally it released. She fell forward, glass cutting her palms. The car was sideways or upside down. She couldn't tell. Rain poured through the shattered windows, and everything smelled like something bad. Something sharp and scary. "Mommy, where are you?" She crawled toward the front seat. Her hands found glass, found metal, found something wet and sticky, found her mother's hand. "Mommy," Sarah wasn't moving. Her head rested against the steering wheel. Her eyes were closed, and there was blood, so much blood. On the dashboard, on the windshield, on Mommy's beautiful face. "Wake up, Mommy, please wake up." Lily shook her mother's arm. Nothing. She shook harder. "Mommy," nothing. The terror came like a wave. It crashed over Lily and pulled her under, and suddenly she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except scream. "Help, somebody, help, my mommy won't wake up, please, anybody help." Iron heard it first. A scream, high-pitched, desperate. cutting through the storm like a blade. He raised his fist. The pack stopped. "What is it?" Bear shouted. Iron was already off his bike, already moving toward the sound. "Please help me. My mommy's hurt, please." Ghost caught up to him. "That's a kid." "I know. Aren't we should call? No signal for miles. Move." They pushed through the tree line. Rain hammered down. Thunder cracked overhead. And then they saw it. The car was wrapped around a tree, crushed like a beer can. Steam rose from the engine. Gasoline pooled on the ground. And beside the wreckage, kneeling in the mud, was a little girl in a torn pink tutu. She was holding her mother's hand through the shattered window. "Please wake up, Mommy. I'll be good. I promise I'll be good. I won't complain about homework anymore. Just please, please wake up." Iron stopped dead. The world shifted. The storm faded. And suddenly he wasn't standing in a Montana forest. He was standing in a kitchen in Phoenix 20 years ago, watching his 7-year-old daughter cry as he walked out the door. Emma, yellow dress, teddy bear clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy, please don't go. Please, I'll be good. I promise." He'd left anyway. He'd told himself it was for the best. The club needed him. Emma would be better off. But the truth was simpler. He'd been scared. Scared of responsibility. Scared of love. Scared of being the father she needed. So he'd run. 20 years. He'd been running for 20 years. Iron Bear's voice snapped him back. "What do we do?" Iron looked at the little girl, at her tear-streaked face, at her tiny hands gripping her mother's arm like it was the only thing keeping her alive. "We save them," he said. "Both of them." Cook. The girl saw him coming and flinched. Iron knew what she saw. A huge man with a silver beard, tattoos covering both arms, a leather vest with hellsangels stitched across the back. Everything she'd been taught to fear. But she didn't run. She just looked up at him with those desperate eyes and said, "Please help my mommy. She's all I have." Something cracked inside Iron's chest. He knelt beside her. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily." "Okay, Lily, I'm going to help your mom, but I need you to be brave. Can you do that?" Lily nodded. Iron turned to the car. The woman inside, early 30s, brown hair, was slumped over the steering wheel. Blood covered half her face. Her breathing was shallow, barely visible. But that wasn't what made his stomach drop. It was the smell. "Bear, get over here now." Bear was already moving. 12 years as a combat medic in Iraq had taught him to read situations fast. He reached the car, took one look, and went pale. "Fuel tanks ruptured." "How long?" Bear watched the gasoline spreading beneath the wreckage. Saw the sparks flying from damaged wiring. 2 minutes, maybe less. "Then we've got 2 minutes. Ghost and Diesel appeared beside them. "Door's crushed," Diesel said. "No way we're opening it." "Then we rip it off." "With what?" Iron grabbed the door frame. "Our hands, J. 90 seconds. Ghost and Diesel worked on the driver's side door, their fingers tearing against twisted metal. Blood dripped from their hands. They didn't stop. Iron braced his foot against the car and pulled. The metal groaned but didn't give. "Harder," he shouted. "Pull!" 80 seconds. Bear had climbed through the back window. "She's got a pulse. Weak but there. Possible spinal injury. We move her wrong, she's paralyzed." "We don't move her at all. She burns." "I know. Just give me a second to stabilize her neck." 70 seconds. Lily stood frozen, watching everything. Her whole body shook. But she didn't cry, didn't scream, just watched with those huge, terrified eyes. Monk, the quietest of them, the one who rarely spoke, walked over and knelt beside her. "Hey, little one, what's your favorite thing in the world?" Lily blinked. "What? Your favorite thing? Quick, first thing that comes to mind." Mr. Buttons, my rabbit." "Is Mr. what?" "Buttons in the car." Lily nodded. "Then we're going to get him too." "Okay, we're going to get your mom and Mr. Buttons both." 60 seconds. The door screamed and finally tore free. "Got it," Diesel shouted. Bear worked fast, his hands steady despite everything. "Necks braced. Pull her out." Iron reached into the car. Heat from the engine washed over his face. The sparks were getting worse. The gasoline was everywhere. 40 seconds. He grabbed the woman under her arms and pulled. She came free, limp, bloody, lighter than he expected. "Go, go, go!" 30 seconds. Iron ran. Behind him, Ghost and Diesel grabbed Lily and sprinted. Bear was right beside Iron, one hand on the woman's neck, keeping it stable. 20 seconds. They cleared the tree line. 10 seconds. Iron Dove shielding the woman with his body. The car exploded. Mile. The shockwave hit like a fist. Heat. Noise. Debris raining down around them. Then silence. Iron lifted his head. The woman was beneath him, still unconscious, still breathing. "Lily!" he shouted. "Where's Lily? Here!" Ghost's voice came from somewhere to his left. "She's okay, she's okay!" Iron rolled off the woman and knelt beside her. Bear was already there checking her vitals. "Talk to me, Bear." "She's breathing. Pulse is—" Bear stopped. His face changed. "What? What is it?" "She's not breathing." "You just said—" "I know what I said. She stopped. She's not breathing." Bear started CPR immediately. Chest compressions, hard and fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lily appeared beside Iron. Her face was white. Her lips were trembling. "Why isn't Mommy breathing? Why isn't she—" "Stay back, sweetheart." "But she was breathing. I saw her breathing." "Lily, please." "Mommy." Lily lunged forward. Iron caught her, pulled her against his chest, held her tight. "Let me go. I need to help her, Mommy." "Bear's helping her. Let him work." "But she's dying. She's dying." Bear kept pushing. 15, 16, 17. "Come on," he growled. "Don't do this. Don't you dare do this." 22, 23, 24, nothing. Iron held Lily as she sobbed. He felt her whole body shaking against his, felt her tears soaking through his shirt. And for the first time in 20 years, he prayed. Not to God. He'd stopped believing in God a long time ago, but to something, anything. "Please, not like this. Don't let this little girl lose her mother. Don't let her grow up like Emma, 30, 31, 32. Bear's arms were shaking. Sweat poured down his face. Breathe. 38, 39, 40. Nothing. Bear looked up at Iron. His eyes said everything. "I'm losing her." Lily screamed into Iron's chest. "Mommy, please don't leave me. You promised you'd never leave me." Iron closed his eyes. 45. 46. Sarah gasped. Her eyes flew open. Her body convulsed. She coughed water and blood, spraying from her lips, and then she was breathing. Ragged, shallow, but breathing. "Mommy!" Lily ripped free from Iron and threw herself at her mother. "Mommy, you're okay, you're okay." Sarah's eyes found her daughter. Confusion, fear, pain, but underneath it all, recognition. "Lily, baby." "I'm here, Mommy. I'm right here. Don't move. These men are helping us." Sarah's gaze shifted to Iron, to his leather vest, to the words hellsangels stitched across his chest. Fear flickered in her eyes. Iron held up his hands. "We're not going to hurt you. We're trying to save you." Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Lily, at the way her daughter wasn't afraid, wasn't screaming, wasn't running. "You saved us," Sarah whispered. "Not yet," Iron said. "We need to get you to a hospital. Can you tell me where it hurts?" "Everywhere. My head, my chest, my legs. I can't feel my legs." Bear's expression tightened. "Possible spinal compression. We need to move now." Iron looked around. Rain still falling. No lights anywhere. No cars. No houses. Nothing but darkness and storm. "Nearest hospital." "Ridgewood," Ghost said. 40 miles southeast. No ambulance is getting through this weather." "I know." Iron looked at his brothers, at their bikes, at the unconscious woman and the terrified little girl. He made a decision. "We take her ourselves." "But Ghost thought he'd misheard. "We what?" "We transport her on the bikes." "Iron, that's insane. She can barely move. She's got possible spinal injuries. One wrong bump and she stays here, she dies. She waits for an ambulance, she does. You want to give me another option, I'm listening." Ghost opened his mouth, closed it. "That's what I thought." Iron turned to Bear. "Can we do this?" Bear rubbed his jaw, thinking fast. "We rig a stretcher between two bikes, use our jackets for straps, keep her horizontal. I ride alongside, monitor her condition. And if she crashes again, I handle it. On a moving motorcycle in a thunderstorm. You got a better idea?" Iron almost smiled. "Almost. The girl rides with me." Lily looked up at him. "Really?" Unless you want to ride with one of these ugly mugs. He pointed at Ghost and Diesel. Lily actually giggled, a tiny sound almost lost in the rain, but Iron heard it, and something in his chest loosened just a fraction. I'll ride with you, she said. Good choice. Orgram. They worked fast. Leather jackets became straps. Belts became supports. In 4 minutes, they'd rigged a system that would hold Sarah secure between Ghost Bike and Diesel's. Her body horizontal, her neck stabilized with Monk's bandana and Bear's field experience. It was insane. It was dangerous. It probably violated a dozen laws. It was also Sarah's only chance. Bear did a final check. She's stable for now, but I'm not gonna lie, Iron. This ride could kill her. Staying here definitely kills her. I know, just wanted you to hear it. Iron nodded, then he walked to Lily. She stood by herself, arms wrapped around her body, shivering. In her hand, she clutched a mud-covered stuffed rabbit. You found Mr. Buttons, Lily looked up. Monk got him before the car exploded. Iron glanced at Monk, who shrugged like he hadn't just run toward a burning vehicle to grab a toy. Come on, kid, time to ride. He lifted Lily onto his bike, positioning her in front of him, where he could shield her from the wind. Her small body pressed against his chest. Her hands gripped his arms. Hold tight, he said. Don't let go no matter what. You understand? I understand. Good girl. He kicked the engines to life. The roar cut through the storm. 5 other engines answered. 6 Hell's Angels, 1 dying woman, 1 terrified little girl, 40 miles of hell between them and the hospital. They made it 15 miles before the first obstacle hit. A tree had fallen across the road, massive ancient blocking both lanes. No way around it, no way through it. Iron stopped, cursed. Options, Ghost checked his phone. Map shows a side road half a mile back, cuts through the mountains, adds maybe 20 minutes. She doesn't have 20 minutes. She doesn't have a choice. Iron looked back at Sarah strapped between the bikes. Her face was gray. Her breathing was getting weaker. Lily tugged his arm. Mr. Iron, is my mommy going to die? Iron looked down at her, at those huge scared eyes, at the trust she'd placed in him, trust he hadn't earned and didn't deserve. No, he said, she's not. He turned the bike around. Take the mountain road. The mountain road was a nightmare. Narrow, winding, hairpin turns every 100 yards. One side hugged the rock face. The other dropped into blackness. Lily buried her face against Iron's chest. I don't like this. Neither do I. Keep your eyes closed. Are we going to fall? No. How do you know? Because I won't let us. He said it with more confidence than he felt. The road was slick with rain. The curves were blind. One mistake and they'd all go over the edge. Behind him, Ghost and Diesel were struggling to keep Sarah's stretcher stable. Every bump made her groan. Every curve made the straps strain. Bear rode alongside, one hand on Sarah's neck, monitoring her pulse. How is she? Iron called. Fading. We need to go faster. I go faster on this road, we're all dead. She doesn't have push the Iron. Iron gritted his teeth. Push the throttle higher. The bike screamed around a curve. Lily screamed with it, her fingers digging into his arms hard enough to bruise. It's okay, he said. I've got you. I've got you. 25 miles in, Sarah stopped, breathing again. Pull over, Bear screamed. Pull over now! Iron stopped so hard his back tire skidded. He barely got Lily off the bike before Bear was already at Sarah's side, starting compressions. Not again, Bear panted. Not again, not again. Lily tried to run to her mother. Iron caught her. Let me go. Let Bear work. But she's dying again. Bear won't let her die. Go, trust me. How can you know that? Iron looked at Bear, at the man who'd saved 17 soldiers in Fallujah, who'd pulled Iron himself back from the edge more times than he could count. Because he's the best there is. Bear kept pushing. 10, 15, 20. Come on, 25, 30. Sarah gasped, coughed, breathed. Bear sat back, his hands shaking. That's twice. Third time, I might not be able to bring her back. Iron's jaw tightened. Then we make sure there's no third time. He lifted Lily back onto the bike. Is Mommy okay? She asked. She's fighting, just like you. Will she keep fighting? Iron thought about his own mother, who'd fought at cancer for 3 years before finally letting go. About Emma, who'd fought to understand why her father left. About all the people who'd fought battles they shouldn't have had to fight because life wasn't fair and the world wasn't kind. Yeah, he said, she'll keep fighting. They cleared the mountain road at 11:23 p.m. The lights of Ridgewood appeared below them, glowing through the rain like a promise. Iron felt something loosen in his chest. They'd made it. But as they descended toward the town, Bear pulled alongside him. His face was wrong. Iron, we've got a problem. What now? This town, Ridgewood, you remember what happened here 5 years ago? Iron's hands tightened on the handlebars. Yeah, he remembered. A gang war. Red Devils versus some local crew. 3 people died in the crossfire, including a deputy's nephew. The whole town blamed bikers, all bikers. Didn't matter which club. Didn't matter if you were involved. They won't care who we are, Bear said. They see the cuts, they see the enemy. We don't have a choice. She won't survive another 40 miles. I know. Just wanted you ready. Ready, Iron almost laughed. How did you get ready for a town that wanted you dead? But Lily's small voice cut through his thoughts. Are we almost there? He looked down at her, at the hope in her eyes, at the trust she'd given him without question. Yeah, sweetheart, we're almost there. Whatever was waiting in Ridgewood, he'd face it. For her. They reached the hospital at 11:47 p.m. Iron pulled up to the emergency entrance. The pack formed a half circle behind him, engines idling, ready for anything. He lifted Lily off the bike, set her on the ground, turned to help with Sarah. The hospital doors burst open. Sheriff Ray Warren stepped out, flanked by 4 deputies, hands on weapons, faces hard as stone. Stop right there! Iron raised his hands slowly. We've got an injured woman. Car accident 20 miles north. She needs help now. Warren walked by closer, studied the scene, the bikes, the leather cuts, the woman strapped between 2 machines. His eyes landed on the Hell's Angels patch and his face twisted. You've got some nerve showing up in my town. Sheriff, we're not looking for trouble. Not looking for trouble, Warren laughed, cold and bitter. You people are trouble. You're the reason my nephew's in the ground. You're the reason half this town won't let their kids play outside anymore. That wasn't us. That was the Red Devils. You're all the same, criminals, thugs, animals. Iron felt his brothers tensing behind him, saw hands drifting toward weapons. The situation was spiraling, and if someone made a wrong move... Sheriff, Iron kept his voice steady. I understand you've got history with bikers. I understand you've got reasons to hate us. But that woman is dying right now. Every second we stand here talking is a second closer to her not making it. Whatever you want to do to us, you can do it later. But please let the doctors help her. Warren didn't move. His hand stayed on his gun. She's got a little girl, Iron continued, 7 years old, standing right there. You want her to watch her mother die because you couldn't put aside your hate for 5 minutes. Warren's eyes flicked to Lily. She was staring at him, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Buttons clutched to her chest. Something shifted in his expression. Then it hardened again. Get off my property. Sheriff, I said get off my property. Lily moved before anyone could stop her. She ran past Iron, past the deputies, straight to Sheriff Warren. She stood in front of him, this tiny girl in a torn tutu covered in mud and blood, and looked up at him with those huge, desperate eyes. Please, mister, my mommy's dying. These men saved us. They pulled us out of a burning car. They kept my mommy alive. Please don't let her die, please. Warren looked down at her. The rain fell. No one moved. Please, Lily whispered. She's all I have. For a long moment, Warren was silent. His jaw worked. His hand trembled on his gun. Then a voice cut through the standoff. Ray Warren, you put that weapon down right now. Everyone turned. A woman stood in the hospital doorway. 60s gray-haired, wearing scrubs and an expression that could have melted steel. She marched toward them like a general going to war. Margaret, Warren started, this doesn't concern. The hell it doesn't. She walked right past him, right past the deputies, straight to where Sarah lay on the makeshift stretcher. She checked the pulse, checked the breathing. Her face went tight. This woman needs surgery now. She turned to the deputies. Get a gurney. Move. Margaret, I haven't authorized. I don't need your authorization, Ray. I'm the head nurse of this ER. That woman is dying. And if you try to stop me from helping her, I will make sure everyone from here to Helena knows what you did. She stepped closer to him, voice dropping. Including what really happened with your nephew, the parts you left out of the official report. Warren's face went white. Margaret held his gaze. We clear. A long silence. Get the gurney, Warren finally said. Now, Barb. They had Sarah inside in 60 seconds. Lily tried to follow, but a deputy blocked her path. Can't go in there, kid. But that's my mommy. Rules are rules, Iron stepping forward. Let her through. Back off, biker. She's 7 years old. Her mother almost died. She's going to sit by that bed even if I have to carry her there myself. The deputy's hand went to his weapon. You threatening me? I'm stating a fact. The tension crackled. Iron could feel his brothers moving behind him, ready to throw down. Then Margaret's voice rang out from the doorway. For God's sake, let the child see her mother. What is wrong with you people? The deputy hesitated, looked at Warren. Warren said nothing. Finally, he stepped aside. Lily ran through the doors without looking back. Iron watched her go, felt something twist in his chest. You're not going in there, Warren said. Iron turned. I know. You'll wait in the parking lot, all of you. When the sun comes up, you're gone. And the girl? She's not your concern. She is tonight. Warren studied him. Something flickered behind his eyes, not respect, not yet, but maybe the beginning of doubt. You really pulled them out of a burning car. Yes. Why Quende? Iron thought about Danny, about Emma, about 20 years of running from everything that mattered. Because someone screamed for help, he said, and we were there. He turned and walked back to his brothers. They waited in the parking lot. The rain slowed to a drizzle, then stopped. The clouds began to break. Stars appeared cold and distant. No one spoke. Bear sat on the curb, head in his hands. Ghost smoked cigarette after cigarette, his eyes never leaving the hospital doors. Diesel paced back and forth, burning off nervous energy. Iron sat on his bike and stared at nothing. You think she'll make it? Monk asked. First words he had spoken in hours. I don't know. You told the girl she would. I know what I told her. Monk nodded slowly. My daughter was about that age when I went to prison. She's 22 now, won't take my calls. Iron said nothing. You ever think about yours? Monk asked. Emma right. Iron's hands tightened on the handlebars. Every damn day. You ever try to reach out? Twice. First time she hung up. Second time her mother answered. Told me if I ever called again, she'd get a restraining order. That was a long time ago. Some things don't change. Monk was quiet for a moment. Then, tonight changed something in you. I can see it. Iron didn't respond. But Monk was right. Something had shifted. Something that had been frozen for 20 years had started to crack. He didn't know what it meant yet, but he knew he couldn't keep running forever. 3 hours passed. At 3:00 a.m., people started showing up. First, an old man with a thermos of coffee. He walked across the parking lot without hesitation and held it out to Iron. Figured you boys could use this. Iron stared at him. Why? Heard what you did, pulling that woman out of a burning car, bringing her here. The old man shrugged. Doesn't matter what you are. That was a good thing. He left the thermos and walked away. Then came a woman with blankets, a teenager with sandwiches, a young mother with bottles of water. More and more until there was a small crowd gathered at the edge of the parking lot. Ghost was suspicious. What's going on? They wanted us dead an hour ago. A word's spreading, Bear said. They're figuring out what happened. And maybe some of them are realizing we're not the monsters they thought. At 3:47 a.m., Margaret Shine walked out of the hospital. Everyone fell silent. Iron stood up. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. Margaret crossed the parking lot. Her face was unreadable. The mother. She stopped in front of him. A long pause. Then she smiled. She's out of surgery, lost a lot of blood. Cracked ribs, collapsed lungs, severe concussion. But she's stable. She's going to make it. The relief hit Iron like a wave. He actually staggered. Bear grabbed his arm to steady him. The girl, Ujo, Iron managed. She's with her mother, hasn't let go of her hand since they brought her in. Margaret studied his face. She keeps talking about you, the man with the silver beard who kept his promise. Iron swallowed hard. Can I see them? Margaret considered him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Follow me. The hospital room was quiet. Machines beeped softly. Rain tapped against the window. Sarah lay in the bed, pale and bandaged tubes running from her arms. Lily was curled up in a chair beside her, Mr. Buttons, in one hand, her mother's fingers in the other. She was asleep, her chest rising and falling, with slow, peaceful breaths. Iron stood in the doorway watching. 20 years. He'd spent 20 years running from moments like this, from vulnerability, from connection, from anything that could hurt him if he let it in. And now here he was, unable to look away. Lily stirred, her eyes open, found Iron and lit up. You came. I said I'd keep you safe. I know. She smiled, tired but real. I believed you. Iron walked over and knelt beside her chair. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something he'd carried for 30 years. A small silver pendant, shaped like a wing. This belonged to my mother, he said. She gave it to me the day I left home. Said it would remind me that even in the darkest times there are angels watching over us. He pressed it into Lily's palm. I want you to have it. Lily stared at the pendant, then at Iron. Why, betting? Because tonight you were the bravest person I've ever met, and I want you to have something to remember that. Lily closed her fingers around the wing. Her eyes were wet. Mr. Iron, yeah? Are you going to find your daughter? Iron felt his throat close up. What? Nurse Margaret told me you haven't seen her in a long time. She said you were scared. Iron looked away, at the window, at the rain. I don't know if she wants to see me. Lily reached out and touched his hand. My mommy says it's never too late to try, even when you're really, really scared. She says that's what being brave is. Iron closed his eyes, felt 20 years of walls starting to crumble. Your mommy's a smart woman. I know. Lily squeezed his hand. She's gonna like you. I know she will.
East time.
Dawn broke over Ridgewood at 6:15 a.m. Iron walked out of the hospital to find his brothers waiting, and not just his brothers. Half the town, it seemed. They stood in the gray morning light watching him. Sheriff Warren pushed through the crowd. Iron tensed. But Warren's face was different now. The anger was gone. Something else had taken its place. I spoke to the doctors, Warren said. They told me what you did. The CPRIA, the makeshift stretcher, the mountain road. He paused. They said she would have died in that car if you hadn't been there. Iron said nothing. I was wrong about you. Warren's voice was rough, like the words cost him something. I let my hate blind me, and I almost let a woman die because of it. He extended his hand. Thank you for saving her. Iron looked at the hand, at the man offering it, at everything it represented. He shook it. Take care of that little girl, Iron said. She's going to need this town while her mother recovers. We will. Warren paused. You're welcome here, whenever you need to be. Iron nodded, turned to his brothers. Let's ride. They mounted their bikes, 6 engines roaring to life. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Iron looked back one last time. Lily stood at the hospital window watching them go. She raised her hand, the silver wing pendant glinting in the morning light. Iron raised his hand back. Then he turned toward the road. Something had changed last night, not just for Lily and Sarah, for him. He didn't know if he could fix what he'd broken with Emma. Didn't know if 20 years of silence could be undone. But for the first time since he'd walked out that door in Phoenix, he wanted to train them all. The road stretched out before him, endless and unknown. And Thomas Reed finally stopped running. The highway stretched out before them like a gray ribbon, still wet from last night's storm. Iron rode at the front, same as always, but something was different. His shoulders weren't as rigid. His grip on the handlebars wasn't as tight. And every few miles he'd glance at his mirror, not to check on his brothers, but to look back at the town disappearing behind them. Bear noticed. He'd known Iron for 15 years, ridden beside him through hell and back, and he'd never seen that look on his face before. like something had cracked open inside him, and he didn't know whether to be terrified or relieved. They rode for an hour before Ghost pulled up beside Iron and signaled to stop. Iron hesitated, then nodded. They pulled off at an abandoned gas station, engines dying one by one. "What's going on?" Iron asked. Ghost lit a cigarette. "That's what we want to know." "What are you talking about?" "You, brother, you haven't been right since we left that hospital. And don't give me the 'I'm fine' bullshit. We've known each other too long for that." Iron pulled off his helmet, ran a hand through his silver hair. The morning sun was warm on his face, but he felt cold inside. "I'm going to find Emma." The words hung in the air. Bear dropped his water bottle. Diesel actually took a step back. Monk just stared. "Your daughter," Ghost said. "The one who won't take your calls, the one whose mother threatened to." "I know what she threatened. I know what I did. I know all of it." Iron's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "I've spent 20 years running from that little girl. 20 years telling myself it was better this way, that she was better off without me. And now, Iron thought about Lily, about the way she'd looked at him when he'd given her the pendant, about the trust in her eyes, trust he hadn't earned, hadn't deserved, but had been given anyway. "Now I'm tired of running." Bear stepped forward. "Iron, I've got to ask, what changed? We've talked about this before. Every time you said the same thing, that reaching out would only hurt her more. What's different now?" Iron closed his eyes. He saw Danny bleeding out in his arms. He saw Lily screaming for her mother in the rain. He saw Emma, 7 years old, standing in that kitchen doorway with tears streaming down her face. "I held a dying man 3 days ago," he said. "He asked me to tell his son he loved him, that he tried to be better." Iron opened his eyes. "I've been thinking about that ever since, thinking about what I'd want someone to tell Emma if I died tomorrow. And you know what I realized? What? I'd want someone to tell her I loved her, that I never stopped loving her. But here's the thing, I'm not dead. I'm standing right here, and if I've got something to say to my daughter, maybe I should be the one to say it." Ghost flicked his cigarette away. "So what's the plan? You just gonna show up on her doorstep?" "I don't know. I don't have a plan. I just know I can't keep living like this." Iron looked at his brothers, these men who'd been his family for longer than his real family ever was. "I'm not asking you to come with me. This is my mess, my responsibility." Bear shook his head. "Like hell you're doing this alone." "Bear, you pulled us out of the darkness, Iron. Every single one of us. When I came back from Iraq with a head full of nightmares and a bottle in my hand, you gave me something to live for. When Ghost's wife died and he was ready to eat his own gun, you sat with him for 3 days straight until the worst passed. When Diesel's kid got sick and he needed money for treatment, you emptied the club's treasury without blinking." Bear stepped closer. "You think we're going to let you face this alone after everything?" Iron felt something burning behind his eyes. He blinked it away. "This could go bad," he said. "Real bad. She might slam the door in my face. Her mother might call the cops. I might make everything worse." "Probably," Ghost said. "But you're still long, and we're still coming with you." Iron looked at each of them. Bear, Ghost, Diesel, Monk, Razor, 5 men who'd followed him through every storm, every fight, every dark night of the soul. "Phoenix is a long ride," he said. Bear grinned. "Good thing we got nothing but time." They mounted their bikes. 6 engines roared to life. And for the first time in 20 years, Iron rode toward his daughter instead of away from her. 3 days later, they got the call. Iron's phone buzzed at 6 a.m. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Mr. Iron," his heart stayed. He knew that voice. "Lily." "Hi, Nurse Margaret. Let me use her phone. She said I could call you because I asked really nicely, and also because I cleaned my plate at breakfast even though the eggs were gross." Iron felt something loosen in his chest. "How's your mom, sweetheart?" "She's awake. She woke up yesterday and she talked to me and she cried a lot, but the good kind of crying, you know. And she asked about you. She wanted to know who saved us." "What did you tell her?" "I told her about you and your friends and how you pulled us out of the fire and how you kept me safe and how you gave me the angel wing." Lily paused. "She wants to meet you. Can you come back?" Iron looked at his brothers gathered around him in the motel parking lot. They'd stopped in Wyoming, still 2 days out from Phoenix. Lily, I'm kind of in the middle of something important. More important than me, God, this kid. Nothing's more important than you. But I'm trying to find my daughter. Remember, I told you about her, Emma, the one you haven't seen in forever. That's her. I'm going to try to make things right. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then that's good. That's really good. My mommy says you have to tell people you love them before it's too late. She says that's what the accident taught her. Your mommy's a smart woman. I know. She's the smartest. Another pause. Mr. Ironwell, you come see us after you find Emma. I want you to meet my mommy when she's not all bloody and sleeping. Iron laughed a real laugh, the first one in longer than he could remember. Yeah, Lily, I'll come see you. Promise. That word again. Promise, the word that had burned him so many times before. The word he'd learned to avoid because breaking promises hurt worse than never making them at all. But this was Lily, and somehow with her, the word didn't feel like a trap. I promise. He could hear her smile through the phone. Okay, good luck with Emma. Tell her she's lucky to have a dad who rides a motorcycle. I think that's really cool. I'll tell her. Bye, Mr. Iron. Bye, sweetheart. He hung up. Bear was watching him with a knowing look. The kid. Yeah. She okay. Better than okay, her mom's awake. Bear nodded slowly. That's good. That's real good. He paused. You know, I've never seen you like this. Like what? Like you actually give a damn about something. Someone. Like you're finally waking up after 20 years of sleepwalking through life. Iron didn't have an answer for that. Because Bear was right. Something had shifted. Something fundamental. And he didn't fully understand it yet, but he knew he couldn't go back to who he'd been before. Let's ride, he said. We've got a long way to go. Phoenix hit them like a wall of heat. After the Montana cold and the Wyoming wind, the Arizona sun felt like punishment. They rolled into the city at midday, 6 bikes gleaming with road dust, 6 men squinting against the glare. Iron had the address memorized. He'd looked it up years ago, back when he'd still had moments of weakness, moments when he'd thought about reaching out. He'd never acted on it, never even driven past the house, but he knew exactly where it was. They stopped at a diner 3 blocks away. Iron needed to think, needed to prepare. You want us to come with you? Ghost asked. Iron shook his head. This I need to do alone. We'll be here, whatever happens. Iron walked out of the diner and stood on the sidewalk. The house was 3 blocks away. 3 blocks, a 5-minute walk, nothing. He'd faced down rival gangs, crooked cops, men twice his size who wanted him dead. 3 blocks should be nothing, but his feet wouldn't move. What if she hated him? What if seeing him made everything worse? What if she'd finally found peace, finally moved on, and his showing up ripped open wounds that had taken years to heal? You gonna stand there all day, or you gonna move? Iron turned. An old woman sat on a bench nearby feeding pigeons. She looked about 80 with white hair and eyes that had seen everything. Excuse me. I've been watching you for 5 minutes. You've got the look of a man about to do something hard. Whatever it is standing here won't make it easier. Iron almost smiled. That obvious. Honey, I've lived 83 years. I can spot fear from a mile away. She threw another handful of seeds to the pigeons. Let me guess. Someone you hurt. Someone you need to make right with. My daughter. I left her when she was 7. Haven't seen her in 20 years. The old woman nodded slowly. That's a long time to carry that weight. Feels like longer. I'm sure it does. She looked up at him with those ancient eyes. You know what I've learned in 83 years? What? The things we regret most aren't the things we did. They're the things we didn't do, the words we didn't say, the chances we didn't take. She stood up, brushing seeds from her dress. Your daughter might forgive you. She might not. But at least you'll know you tried. At least you won't spend the rest of your life wondering what if. Iron stared at her. You always give advice to strangers on the street. Only the ones who look like they need it. She patted his arm as she walked past. Good luck, honey. I hope she gives you a chance. She disappeared around the corner, and Iron was alone again. He took a deep breath, and he started walking. The house was small, a modest ranch-style home with a neat lawn and flowers in the window boxes. A tricycle sat on the front porch. Kids' toys scattered in the yard. Iron stopped at the edge of the property. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. She had kids. Emma had kids. He was a grandfather and he hadn't even known. He almost turned around, almost walked away. This was too much. He didn't deserve to be here, didn't deserve to know. These children didn't deserve them. The front door opened. A woman stepped out. Late 20s, brown hair, his mother's eyes, Emma. She was carrying a laundry basket, humming something under her breath. She didn't see him at first. Just walked toward the side of the house, completely unaware that her father was standing 20 feet away. Then she turned. The basket hit the ground. Emma. His voice came out rough, broken. She stared at him. Her face went through a dozen emotions in 3 seconds: shock, confusion, anger, pain, and something else he couldn't identify. What are you doing here? I came to. The words stuck in his throat. He'd rehearsed this 100 times on the ride down, had planned exactly what he'd say. But now standing here looking at the deep water he'd abandoned, everything he'd prepared evaporated. I came to tell you I'm sorry. Emma's jaw tightened. Sorry you show up after 20 years and you're sorry. I know it's not enough. You're damn right it's not enough. Her voice was shaking. Do you have any idea what you did to me? Do you have any idea what it was like to be 7 years old and watch your father walk out the door and never come back? No. Emma, I waited for you. Every day, for a year I waited. I'd sit by the window and watch the street thinking, maybe today would be the day you'd come home. Maybe today you'd remember you had a daughter who loved you. Tears were streaming down her face now. Iron felt his own eyes burning. But you never came, you never called. You just disappeared like I was a nothing. Like I didn't matter at all. You mattered, Iron's voice cracked. You mattered more than anything. That's why I left. What? I was poison, Emma. Everything I touched turned to ash. The club, the life I was living, it was dark, violent. I saw men die. I did things I'm not proud of. And I looked at you, this perfect, innocent little girl, and I thought, he stopped, swallowed. I thought you'd be better off without me. I thought if I stayed, I'd ruin you, turn you into something broken, like me. So you abandoned me instead. I made a mistake, the worst mistake of my life. And I've spent 20 years paying for it. Emma laughed bitter and cold. You've spent 20 years paying for it. I spent 20 years in therapy, 20 years wondering what was wrong with me, why my own father didn't want me. 20 years trying to be perfect because maybe if I was perfect enough, you'd come back. There was nothing wrong with you. There was never anything wrong with you. It was me. It was always me. Then why are you here now after all this time? Why now? Iron thought about Danny, about Lily, about the little girl screaming in the rain, and the promise he'd made to himself in that moment. Because a few days ago, I pulled a woman and her daughter out of a burning car. The little girl, she was 7 years old, same age you were when I left. And she looked at me with these big scared eyes and said, please help my mommy. She's all I have. He paused. His voice was barely a whisper now. And I realized that's what you were saying to me 20 years ago. Please don't leave. You're all I have. And I walked away anyway. Emma said nothing. Her face was unreadable. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back those 20 years. But I can tell you the truth. I never stopped loving you. Not for one single day. I thought about you every morning when I woke up and every night before I fell asleep. I kept a picture of you in my wallet. He pulled out his wallet, showed her the worn photograph inside. This was the last picture I took of you, the day before I left. You were wearing a yellow dress and holding a teddy bear. Emma's breath caught. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I love you, that leaving you was the greatest regret of my life. The silence stretched between them. Iron could hear birds singing somewhere, children laughing down the street. The normal sounds of a normal life, the life he'd given up, the life he'd denied himself. Grandma, the front door burst open. A little boy, maybe 4 years old, came running out, followed by a little girl who looked about 2. They ran toward Emma, then stopped when they saw Iron. Mommy, who's that man? The boy asked. Emma looked at Iron, then at her children, then back at Iron, and Iron saw it the moment of decision. The moment she would either send him away forever or give him one more chance. This is, Emma hesitated. Her voice was still shaky, still raw with emotion. This is your grandfather. Iron felt his knees go weak. I have a grandfather, the boy said. Tommy at school has a grandfather. He gives him candy. I don't have any candy, Iron managed, but I can get some. The boy studied him with the ruthless honesty of a 4-year-old. You look scary. Marcus, Emma said. It's okay. Iron knelt down to the boy's level. I know I look scary, but you know what? Sometimes the scariest looking people have the biggest hearts. You just have to give them a chance. Marcus tilted his head. Do you have a motorcycle? I do. Can I ride it? Maybe someday, if your mommy says it's okay. Marcus turned to Emma with huge pleading eyes. Mommy, please. Emma looked at her son, looked at her daughter who was hiding behind her legs, looked at the father she hadn't seen in 20 years kneeling in her front yard with tears on his cheeks. We'll see, she said finally. And Iron knew that wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't absolution. It wasn't even close to making things right. But it was a door, a crack in the wall, a chance, and for now that was enough. That night, Iron sat in Emma's living room. It was surreal. The walls were covered with family photos, Emma's wedding, the kids' birthdays, holidays with people he didn't recognize. A whole life that had happened without him. 20 years of memories he'd never be part of. Where's their father? Iron asked. Emma's face tightened. Gone, left 2 years ago, said he wasn't ready to be a dad. Iron felt a surge of anger. He walked out on them. Ironic, isn't it? Emma's voice was sharp. I married a man just like my father. The words hit Iron like a punch to the gut. He deserved that. He knew he deserved that. I'm sorry. You keep saying that. Because I keep meaning it. Emma sighed. She looked tired, not just physically, but deep down the kind of tired that came from carrying too much for too long. I've been so angry at you. For 20 years I've been angry. And then you show up and I expect to feel, I don't know, rage, hatred, something big and dramatic. She shook her head. But mostly I just feel tired. Tired of what? Of being angry, of carrying this around, of looking at my kids and wondering if I'm going to screw them up the way you screwed me up. Iron leaned forward. You're not going to screw them up. How do you know? Because you're still here. Because when things got hard, you didn't run. You stayed, you fought. You built a life for them. He gestured at the room around them. This house, these pictures, this family you have created. None of that happens if you are broken. Emma's eyes were wet. I don't feel unbroken. Nobody does. That's the secret no one tells you. Everybody's broken somehow. The question is whether you let it define you or you keep going anyway. The front door opened. Bear stuck his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got a situation. Iron stood immediately. What kind of situation? Remember that town Ridgewood? What about it? Bear's face was grim. Something's happened. Something bad. Iron felt his stomach drop. The woman, the little girl. Sarah's okay, but Lily. Bear hesitated. Lily's missing. The word hit Iron like a thunderbolt. Missing. Lily was missing. What do you mean, missing? Margaret just called. Lily was in the hospital room with Sarah. Sarah fell asleep, and when she woke up, Lily was gone. They've searched the whole hospital. Nothing. Iron was already moving toward the door. Iron, wait. Emma grabbed his arm. Who's Lily? He turned back, looked at his daughter, at the questions in her eyes. She's a little girl I made a promise to, and I don't break promises anymore. He walked out the door. His brothers were already on their bikes, engines running. Emma followed him onto the porch. You're just going to leave again, Iron stopped. The words cut deep, but this time he had an answer. I'm not leaving you. I'm coming back. But right now there's a 7-year-old girl out there who needs help, and I can't abandon her the way I abandon you. Emma stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Go. Find her. Iron mounted his bike, looked back at his daughter one more time. I'll come back, he said. I promise. And this time he meant it. 6 motorcycles roared out of Phoenix heading north. Somewhere in Montana, a little girl was missing, and Iron was going to find her no matter what it took. They rode through the night without stopping. Iron pushed his bike harder than he'd ever pushed it before eating up the miles like a man possessed. His brothers stayed with him, matching his pace, no questions asked. They understood. When one of their own was in trouble, you didn't hesitate. You moved. And somewhere along the way, that little girl had become one of their own. Bear pulled alongside him around 3 a.m., shouting over the wind, "We need gas, another 50 miles and we're running on fumes." Iron didn't want to stop. Every minute they wasted was another minute. Lily was out there scared and alone. But Bear was right. They couldn't help anyone if they broke down in the middle of nowhere. "Next station," Iron shouted back. 5 minutes, no more." They found a truck stop 20 miles later. While the others filled their tanks, Iron called Margaret. "Any news?" "Nothing." Margaret's voice was strained. "Sheriff Warren's got every deputy out looking. State police are involved now, but it's like she vanished into thin air." Someone saw something. Someone always sees something. The security cameras caught a man entering the hospital around 2 a.m. Baseball cap kept his head down. He went straight to Sarah's room. Did Sarah see him? She was sedated. The nurses had given her something to help her sleep. When she woke up, Lily was gone. Iron's grip tightened on the phone. "What about the man? Where did he go?" "That's the thing. The cameras lost him in the stairwell. By the time security checked, he was gone. And so was Lily. She wouldn't have gone with a stranger. Not after what she's been through." Margaret was quiet for a moment. "Iron, there is something else. Something Sarah told us after she woke up." "What?" "Lily's father, David. He left when Lily was 2, but Sarah never filed for full custody. Technically, he still has parental rights." The words hit Iron like a bucket of ice water. "You think he took her?" Sarah's convinced of it. She says David's been in and out of rehab for years. Last she heard, he was living in some trailer park outside of Billings. But he's always been obsessed with Lily. Even when he was using, he'd send letters show up unannounced. Sarah had to move 3 times to get away from him. Why didn't she get a restraining order? She tried, but David's family has money, good lawyers. Every time she went to court, they made her look like the problem. Iron felt rage building in his chest. A man who'd abandoned his daughter, who'd chosen drugs over his own child, now swooping in to take her when she was most vulnerable. "I'm going to find him," Iron said. "Iron, you need to let the police handle this." "The police don't know Lily. The police didn't pull her out of a burning car. The police didn't promise to keep her safe. And what are you going to do when you find him, beat him to death, spend the rest of your life in prison?" Iron didn't answer, because honestly, he didn't know. All he knew was that Lily was out there somewhere, probably terrified, and he couldn't just sit around waiting for someone else to save her. "Just be careful," Margaret said. "That little girl needs you. Don't do something stupid that takes you away from her." Iron hung up. Bear was watching him. "What's the play?" "Change of plans. We're not going to Ridgewood." "Where then?" "Hall, Billings. Lily's father took her." Bear's expression darkened. "Her father, the one who walked out?" "Same one. And we're going to get her back." Bear nodded slowly. "All right, but Iron, we do this smart. We're not killing anyone tonight. I'm not making promises I can't keep." "Iron, so let's ride." They hit Billings at dawn. The trailer park was exactly what Iron expected. Run down, forgotten, the kind of place where people went to disappear. Rusted trailers sat in crooked rows. Broken cars decorated dead lawns. The smell of poverty and desperation hung heavy in the morning air. Iron stopped his bike at the entrance. His brothers gathered around him. "How do we find him?" Diesel asked. "We ask." Iron walked toward the nearest trailer. A woman sat on the steps smoking a cigarette, watching them with suspicious eyes. "Help you." "Looking for a man named David. Has a daughter about 7 years old. Brown hair. Would have shown up last night or early this morning." The woman took a long drag. "What's it to you?" "The girl's mother wants her back." "And who are you, cops?" Iron let his cut speak for itself. The woman's eyes flickered to the hellsangels patch, and something shifted in her expression. "Lot 17, she said. "Blue trailer with the broken window. But I didn't tell you nothing." "Appreciate it." They found the trailer easily enough. A beat-up Honda Civic sat outside, engine still warm. Someone had arrived recently. Iron signaled to his brothers. Ghost and Diesel circled around back. Bear and Monk covered the sides. Razor stayed with the bikes. Iron walked up to the front door and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder this time. "David, open up." Silence. Then a sound from inside, something crashing, a man's voice cursing, and beneath it all, a sound that made Iron's blood run cold. A child crying. He didn't think, didn't hesitate. He kicked the door in. The inside of the trailer was chaos. Overturned furniture, broken glass on the floor, and in the corner, huddled against the wall, was Lily. She looked up when the door crashed open. Her face was pale, streaked with tears. A bruise was forming on her cheek. "Mr. Iron!" A man lunged at him from the side, skinny, wild-eyed, with the jittery movements of someone coming down from a high. David. Had to be. Iron caught his arm and twisted. David screamed as his shoulder popped. "Don't touch her again." "She's my daughter." "You can't." Iron slammed him against the wall. "She's terrified. She's got a bruise on her face." "You want to tell me how that happened?" "She wouldn't stop crying. She kept saying she wanted her mom wanted some guy named Iron. And I just wanted her to be quiet." Iron felt something snap inside him. All the rage, all the pain, all the years of self-loathing, it all focused into a single point of white-hot fury. He pulled back his fist. "Iron, don't." Bear's voice cut through the red haze. Iron turned. Bear was in the doorway, his face grim but controlled. "Not like this, brother. Not in front of her." Iron looked at Lily. She was staring at him with those huge eyes, not afraid of him, but watching, waiting to see what he'd do. He thought about what Bear had said, about what Margaret had said, about spending the rest of his life in prison, unable to keep the promises he'd made. He lowered his fist. "Get out of my sight," he told David. "If I ever see you near Lily or Sarah again, I won't stop. You understand me?" David nodded frantically, clutching his dislocated shoulder. "Get out, now." David scrambled past him and disappeared into the morning light. Iron walked over to Lily and he knelt down. "Hey, sweetheart, you okay?" Lily threw herself into his arms. She was shaking so hard he could feel it in his bones. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. "I knew you'd find me." Iron held her tight. "I made a promise. Remember, I don't break promises." "He said Mommy didn't want me anymore. He said that's why she was letting him take me. But I knew it wasn't true. I knew Mommy would never do that." "He lied, Lily. Your mommy loves you more than anything in the world. She's been worried sick. Can we go see her, please?" "Yeah, sweetheart. We're going right now." He carried her out of the trailer. His brothers were waiting outside, their faces a mix of relief and lingering anger. "She okay?" Bear asked. "She will be." Ghost was staring at the bruise on Lily's cheek. "We should have let you hit him." "Wouldn't have helped anything." "Would have helped me." Iron almost smiled. "Come on, let's get her home." They rode toward Ridgewood with Lily on Iron's bike, her small arms wrapped around his waist, her face pressed against his back. She didn't speak for the first hour, just held on, letting the vibration of the engine and the warmth of Iron's body slowly calm her down. Finally, she lifted her head. "Mr. Iron." "Yeah, why did my daddy take me?" Iron didn't know how to answer that. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that some people are broken in ways that can't be fixed? That love and selfishness can exist in the same person twisted together until you can't tell them apart? "I think he missed you," Iron said carefully. "But he went about it the wrong way. He scared me. He was yelling a lot, and his eyes looked funny, like he wasn't really there." "That's because he was sick, Lily, a different kind of sick than your mommy, a sickness in his head." "Will he come back?" "No, I made sure of that." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Then, is that why you left your daughter, because you were sick too?" The question hit Iron like a bullet. He actually flinched. "Yeah," he said after a long moment. "I guess I was. Different kind of sick, but sick all the same." "But you got better." Iron thought about Emma, about the look on her face when she let him into her house, about Marcus and the little girl whose name he still didn't know, about the chance he'd been given and was terrified of wasting. "I'm trying to get better. Every day." "Good." Lily rested her head against his back again. "Because I need you to not be sick anymore." "Why's that?" "Because you're my angel, and angels have to be healthy so they can protect people. Iron felt his throat tighten. I'm not an angel, Lily. Yes, you are. You just don't know it yet. They reached the hospital at noon. Sarah was waiting outside, supported by Margaret and a nurse. The moment she saw Iron's bike, she started crying. Lily. Lily jumped off the bike before Iron could stop her and ran straight into her mother's arms. They collapsed together on the sidewalk, holding each other so tight it looked like they'd never let go. Mommy, I missed you so much. Oh, baby, oh, my sweet baby. I was so scared I thought I'd lost you. Mr. Iron found me. He saved me again. Sarah looked up at Iron. Her face was wet with tears, but her eyes were filled with something else. Gratitude, wonder, and maybe something more. Thank you, she said. Thank you for bringing her back. Iron shook his head. I made her a promise. Most people don't keep those. I'm not most people. Margaret helped Sarah to her feet. You need to be resting. Both of you. The police are going to want statements, but that can wait until... No, Sarah's voice was firm. I'm done waiting. I'm done letting David control my life. I want to give my statement. I want this over. Sheriff Warren appeared in the hospital entrance. His face was complicated relief mixed with something that looked almost like respect. Mrs. Anderson, I'm glad you're safe. Both of you. Sheriff, I want to press charges against David for kidnapping, for assault, whatever you can make stick. Warren nodded. We'll need a full statement from you and from Lily when she's ready. He glanced at Iron. And from these gentlemen, apparently. They're the only reason I have my daughter back. Warren was quiet for a moment. Then he stepped forward and extended his hand to Iron. I owe you an apology. When you first showed up in my town, I treated you like criminals. I let my prejudice blind me to who you really are. He paused. You're good men, better than I gave you credit for. Iron shook his hand. People make mistakes. What matters is what they do after. Speaking from experience. Something like that. That night they gathered in the hospital cafeteria. Sarah was officially discharged, but had convinced Margaret to let her stay one more night so Lily could sleep in a real bed. The doctors had checked Lily's bruise, nothing serious thankfully, and given her a mild sedative to help her rest. Now with Lily asleep upstairs, the adults sat around a table drinking bad coffee and trying to process everything that had happened. What happens now? Bear asked. With David. Warren says they've got enough to charge him, Sarah said. Kidnapping, assault on a minor violation of custody agreement. His family's lawyers are good, but not that good. And you, what are you going to do? Sarah looked down at her hands. I don't know. We can't go back to our old apartment. Too many memories, too much fear. I need to start over somewhere new. You have family, Ern asked. My parents are gone. I have a sister in Colorado, but we haven't spoken in years. She laughed bitterly. I'm not very good at keeping people in my life. That's not your fault. Sometimes life just happens that way. Sarah looked at him, really looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Why do you care so much about me, about Lily? We're strangers. You didn't have to come back. Iron thought about the question. It was a good one. A week ago, he would have said he was just doing the right thing, that anyone would have done the same. But that wasn't true, was it? Anyone wouldn't have done the same. Most people would have called 911 and kept driving. Most people wouldn't have transported a dying woman through a thunderstorm on motorcycles. Most people wouldn't have driven 14 hours to track down a kidnapped child. Most people weren't Iron. When I pulled Lily out of that car, he said slowly, she looked at me with these eyes, so scared but so trusting. And she said, please help my mommy. She's all I have. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I have a daughter, Emma. I abandoned her when she was Lily's age. Walked out the door and never came back. Spent 20 years telling myself it was for the best, that she was better off without me. But the truth is I was just scared. Scared of being a father. Scared of screwing it up. So I ran. Sarah was watching him with those intense eyes, not judging, just listening. When Lily looked at me that night, I saw Emma. I saw the little girl I'd left behind. And I thought, maybe this is my chance. Maybe this is the universe giving me a chance to do it right this time. He shook his head. I know that sounds crazy. It doesn't sound crazy, Sarah said softly. It sounds human. I went to see Emma before I got the call about Lily. Showed up at her house out of nowhere after 20 years of silence. Iron smiled sadly. She's got kids now, a boy and a girl, my grandchildren. I didn't even know they existed. How did it go? Better than I deserved. She didn't forgive me, not yet, but she let me in, gave me a chance to explain. And then the call came about Lily and I had to leave. He looked at Sarah. But I told her I'd come back. I made her a promise too. You seem to make a lot of promises. I'm learning that keeping them is the only thing that matters. Sarah reached across the table and touched his hand. Thank you, Iron, for everything. I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to repay me. Just take care of that little girl. Give her the life she deserves. I'm trying, it's just... Sarah's voice faltered. It's hard, doing it alone, being everything she needs all by myself. You're not alone. The words came out before Iron could stop them. Sarah looked at him surprised. What do you mean? Iron glanced at his brothers. Bear gave him an almost imperceptible nod. We're heading back to Phoenix tomorrow, to see Emma. But after that, he hesitated. If you need help getting on your feet, finding a new place, building a new life, we could help. You don't even know me. I know Lily, and Lily loves you more than anything in the world. That tells me everything I need to know. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this? Why are any of you doing this? Bear spoke up. Because we've all got things in our past we're trying to make up for. People we've hurt, mistakes we've made. Helping you, helping Lily, it doesn't erase what we've done, but it gives us a chance to be better. Sarah looked around the table at these men, these bikers with their leather cuts and their tattoos and their rough exteriors. Men the world had written off as criminals and thugs, but she didn't see criminals. She saw protectors, rescuers, angels in disguise. Okay, she said finally. Okay, I'll accept your help, but I want to do something in return. What? When you go to see Emma, I want to come with you. Iron blinked. Why, because you're going to need someone in your corner, someone who can tell her what kind of man you really are. Not the man who left 20 years ago, but the man you've become. Sarah squeezed his hand. Let me do this, please. Iron didn't know what to say. This woman who'd almost died a week ago, who'd just gotten her daughter back from a kidnapper, wanted to help him mend his broken relationship with his own daughter. You should be resting, he said, recovering, not driving across the country on some mission. I've spent 3 years resting, 3 years hiding, 3 years being scared of everything. Sarah's jaw set with determination. I'm done with that. Lily's kidnapping showed me life is too short to play it safe. If you're willing to help me start over, the least I can do is help you finish what you started. Iron looked at Bear. Bear shrugged. She's got a point. She's barely out of the hospital. I'm right here, Sarah said, and I'm fine. Or I will be once we're on the road. Mommy, everyone turned. Lily stood in the cafeteria doorway, rubbing her eyes. Mr. Buttons clutched to her chest. Baby, what are you doing out of bed? I had a dream. A good dream. Lily patted over and climbed into Sarah's lap. I dreamed we all went to see Mr. Iron's daughter, and she was really nice, and she forgave him for leaving. And then we all lived happily ever after. Iron felt something catch in his throat. That's a nice dream, sweetheart. It's not just a dream. Lily looked at him with those wise, ancient eyes. It's going to happen. I know it is. How do you know? Because you're an angel, and angels always get happy endings. She nestled against Sarah's chest and closed her eyes. Iron stared at her for a long moment. This little girl who'd been through so much, who'd seen her mother almost die, who'd been kidnapped by her own father, and still she believed. Still she had faith that everything would work out. Maybe that was the real miracle here. Not that they'd saved her life, but that she'd somehow saved theirs. All right, Iron said finally. We leave tomorrow, all of us. Sarah smiled. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've still got a long road ahead. I know. Sarah looked down at Lily, already drifting back to sleep. But at least we're not traveling it alone. The next morning they hit the road. Iron led the pack, same as always. But this time there was a car behind them as Sarah's rental, with Lily in the back seat waving at the bikers every few minutes. Margaret had tried to talk her out of it. The doctors had warned against it. But Sarah was determined, and Iron was starting to learn that when Sarah made up her mind about something, there was no changing it. They'd been driving for 3 hours when Bear pulled up beside him. Got a call from Razor. He stayed behind to keep an eye on David. And David's gone, cleared out of the trailer last night. Razor followed him to the bus station. He bought a ticket to California. He's running. Looks like it. Warren's already put out a warrant. California cops will pick him up when he gets there. Aisher nodded. Good. The farther David was from Lily, the better. There's something else, Bear said. Emma called. Iron's heart stuttered. What? She called the clubhouse looking for you. Razor gave her your number. What did she say? She wants to see you, said she's been thinking about what you said, about not running anymore. Bear paused. She said she's tired of running too. Iron felt something shift in his chest, hope maybe, or fear, or both. How far to Phoenix? 8 hours if we push it. Iron looked back at Sarah's car, at Lily's face in the window at the road stretching out before them. Then let's push it. He opened the throttle and surged forward toward his daughter, toward redemption, toward whatever came next. They pulled into Phoenix as the sun was setting. Iron's hands were shaking on the handlebars. He'd faced down armed men without flinching. He'd ridden through storms that would have killed lesser riders. He'd stared death in the face and laughed. But this driving toward his daughter's house, knowing she was waiting for him, knowing this conversation could change everything, this terrified him more than anything he'd ever faced. Sarah's car pulled up beside him at a red light. She rolled down her window. You okay? Fine. You're lying. Iron almost smiled. That obvious. Your knuckles are white. You've been gripping those handlebars like they're the only thing keeping you alive. Sarah's voice softened. It's going to be okay, Iron. Whatever happens. You don't know that. No, but I believe it, and sometimes that's enough. The light turned green. Iron pulled forward. 3 more miles. 3 more miles and 20 years of regret would come to a head. Emma was waiting on the front porch when they arrived. She stood with her arms crossed, watching as 6 motorcycles and a rental car pulled up in front of her house. Her face was unreadable, a mask that Iron recognized because he wore the same one. Marcus burst through the door behind her. Grandpa, you came back. The word hit Iron like a punch to the gut. Grandpa. He'd only met the boy once for maybe 20 minutes, and already Marcus was calling him Grandpa. Hey, buddy. Iron knelt down as Marcus ran toward him. Of course I came back. I told you I would. Mommy said you might not. She said sometimes people say things they don't mean. Iron looked up at Emma. Her expression flickered guilt, defensiveness, something else he couldn't name. Your mommy's not wrong, Iron said carefully. A lot of people do that, but I'm trying to be different. Is that why you brought so many friends? Iron turned to look at his brothers, who were dismounting their bikes with varying degrees of awkwardness. Bear gave a little wave. Ghost lit a cigarette and tried to look casual. Diesel was staring at the flower boxes like they were the most fascinating things he'd ever seen. Yeah, buddy, these are my brothers. But you don't have brothers. Mommy said you're an only child. They're a different kind of brothers, the kind you choose. Marcus considered this with the intense seriousness that only 4-year-olds can muster. Can I choose brothers too? When you're older, if you find people worth choosing. Cool. Marcus grabbed Iron's hand. Come inside, I want to show you my dinosaurs. Marcus, Emma's voice cut through the moment. Let Grandpa talk to the grown-ups first. Go play with your sister. Marcus pouted, but obeyed, disappearing into the house. Iron stood up slowly, facing his daughter. Emma. Dad. The word was stilted, uncomfortable, like a suit that didn't quite fit. Thank you for letting us come. I didn't have much choice. You were already on your way when you called. I would have turned around if you'd asked. Would you? Iron met her eyes. Yes, I would have. Something shifted in Emma's expression, not softening exactly, but the wall came down just a fraction. Who are they? She nodded towards Sarah and Lily, who were getting out of the car. Friends, Sarah and her daughter Lily. They're the ones I told you about. The accident. Emma watched as Lily ran toward Iron and grabbed his hand. Mr. Iron, is this your daughter? She's pretty. Sarah hurried after her. Lily, don't be rude. It's okay, Emma said. Her voice was strange, curious, and guarded at the same time. You're the ones he saved. He saved our lives, Sarah said simply. Twice now. Twice? It's a long story. Mum looked at Iron, at Lily clutching his hand like it was the most natural thing in the world, at Sarah standing close enough to touch him. I think I need to hear this story, she said. They sat in Emma's living room, crowded together on mismatched furniture. The bikers looked comically out of place, huge men in leather vests surrounded by children's toys and family photos. But they sat quietly, respectfully, letting Iron and Emma take the lead. Sarah told the story. Iron couldn't. Every time he tried to speak, his throat closed up. So Sarah told it instead from the beginning. The accident, the burning car, the impossible ride through the storm, the standoff at the hospital, and then David's kidnapping and Iron's rescue. Emma listened without interrupting. Her face cycled through emotions, shock, disbelief, something that might have been admiration. When Sarah finished, the room was silent. You did all that, Emma finally asked, for people you'd never met. It wasn't about them, Iron said. Not at first. When I saw Lily in that car, I saw you. I saw the daughter I'd abandoned, and I thought maybe this was my chance to do something right for once. So I was just a substitute, someone to make yourself feel better about leaving me. No. Iron leaned forward. Emma, I'm not saying this right. I never say anything right. He took a breath. When I left you, I told myself it was for your own good, that you'd be better off without me. But that was a lie. The truth is I was scared. Scared of being a father. Scared of screwing up. Scared of loving someone so much that losing them would destroy me. Emma's jaw tightened. So you just ran. I ran, and I've been running ever since. From you, from myself, from anything that might actually matter. Iron's voice cracked. But I'm tired, Emma. I'm so goddamn tired of running. Why now? Why after 20 years did you suddenly decide to stop? Iron thought about Danny, about his last words, about the promise Iron had failed to keep for so long. Because a man died in my arms a week ago, a brother, and the last thing he said was, tell my son I loved him. Tell him I tried to be better. Iron's eyes burned. And I thought that's what I'd want someone to tell you, that I loved you, that I tried, but I realized I shouldn't need someone else to deliver that message. I should tell you myself, while I still can. Emma was crying now, silent tears running down her cheeks. Do you have any idea what it was like growing up without you? No, and I won't pretend to. I used to tell people my dad was dead. It was easier than explaining that he'd just left, that he'd chosen his motorcycle club over his own daughter. Emma, every Father's Day, every school play, every birthday, I'd look for you. Part of me always expected you to show up, to walk through the door and say it was all a mistake, that you'd been trying to find your way back. She wiped her face angrily. But you never came. I wanted to. God, Emma. I wanted to so many times. Wanting isn't the same as doing. You taught me that. Iron flinched because she was right. He'd spent 20 years wanting to reach out, wanting to make things right, and wanting had never been enough. I know, he said quietly. I know nothing I say can undo what I did. I know sorry isn't enough. It's not even close to enough. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the worn photograph, the one he'd carried for 20 years. But I need you to know that I never forgot you, not for one single day. He handed her the picture. Emma stared at it, at herself as a 7-year-old wearing a yellow dress, holding a teddy bear. You kept this always. It was in my wallet when I walked out that door. It's been there ever since. Emma touched the photograph with trembling fingers. I remember this day. You took me to the park. We had ice cream, strawberry, my favorite. It was the best day of my life. Then why did you leave the next morning? Iron closed his eyes. The memory was still there, sharp and clear after all these years. Emma standing in the doorway, begging him not to go, and him walking away without looking back because he knew if he looked back, he'd never be able to leave. Because I was a coward. Because the club was the only place I felt like I belonged, and I was terrified of losing that. Because I thought being a father meant giving up everything I was, and I wasn't ready. He opened his eyes. I had 1,000 reasons, Emma, and not one of them was good enough. The room was silent. Even Lily, who'd been fidgeting throughout the conversation, had gone still. Then Marcus's voice cut through the tension. Mommy, why are you crying? Emma looked up. Marcus was standing in the doorway, his little sister clutching his hand. I'm okay, baby. Mommy's just talking about some sad things. Is Grandpa making you sad? Emma hesitated. Iron watched her, his heart in his throat. No, she said finally. Grandpa's trying to make things better. It's just hard sometimes. Marcus walked over to Iron and tugged on his sleeve. Don't make Mommy cry, okay? She cries a lot. I don't like it. Iron knelt down to Marcus's level. I'm trying not to buddy, but sometimes when grown-ups hurt each other, fixing it means crying first. Does that make sense? Marcus thought about it. Like when I fell off my bike and you have to clean the scrape before it gets better. Exactly like that. Oh, Marcus nodded solemnly. Okay, but be careful. Mommy's scrapes are really big. Iron's throat tightened. I know, buddy, I know. Emma stood up abruptly. I need some air. Marcus, stay here with your sister. Sarah, would you mind? Of course. Sarah was already moving toward the kids. We'll be fine. Emma walked out the back door. Iron hesitated, then followed. She was standing in the backyard, arms wrapped around herself, staring at nothing. Iron stopped a few feet away, giving her space. I don't know how to do this, Emma said without turning around. Do what? This, forgiveness, moving on, whatever you want to call it. She turned to face him. Part of me wants to scream at you, hit you, make you feel even a fraction of what I felt growing up without a father. I'd deserve it. I know you would. That's the problem. You just stand there and take it, and then what? We'd be right back where we started. Iron took a step closer. Then tell me what you need. Whatever it is, I'll do it. What I need is 20 years of my life back. Can you give me that? No. Then what can you give me? Iron thought about everything he learned in the past week, everything he'd done and failed to do, everything he still wanted to be. I can give you today, he said, and tomorrow, and every day after that for as long as I'm breathing. I can show up when you need me. I can be there for your kids even if you don't want me in your life. I didn't say I don't want you in my life. Iron stopped. What? Emma's face was conflicted. Pain and hope and fear all tangled together. I spent 20 years hating you, building walls, telling myself I didn't need a father. And then you showed up last week and all those walls just... She made a gesture like something crumbling. I expected to feel satisfied, vindicated. I thought I'd finally get to tell you what a bastard you were and then slam the door in your face. But you looked so broken, so lost, like you'd been carrying something heavy for a long time and you couldn't carry it anymore. Her voice wavered. And I realized I've been carrying the same thing. We've both been crushed by the same weight. And maybe the only way either of us gets free is if we put it down together. Iron felt tears burning in his eyes. Emma, I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not sure I can. Not yet, maybe not ever. She took a shaky breath, but I'm saying I want to try. I want to see if there's anything left to salvage. For Marcus, for Lily, my Lily, not the other one. For myself. Your daughter's name is Lily. Emma almost smiled. Yeah, I named her after a character in a book I loved. It was about a girl who lost her parents but found a new family anyway. She paused. I always connected with that story. For obvious reasons. Iron didn't know what to say, so he just stood there, tears running down his face, looking at the daughter he'd abandoned and the grandchildren he'd never known. He hesitated. Can I hug you? I know I don't have the right to ask, but Emma crossed the distance between them before he could finish. She threw her arms around him and held on tight, and Iron held her back, and for the first time in 20 years, they cried together. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Emma. For everything. I know, Dad. I know. Dad. Not the stilted, uncomfortable version from before. This one was real. Broken and bruised, but real. They stayed like that for a long time. When they finally went back inside, everything had changed. Sarah had gotten the kids settled with a movie in the other room. The bikers had raided Emma's fridge and were passing around beers like they belonged there. And somehow, impossibly, it all felt right. Bear raised his bottle when Iron and Emma walked in. Everything okay? Iron looked at his daughter. Emma nodded slightly. Yeah, Iron said. Yeah, I think it is. Good, because we've got a situation. Iron's good mood evaporated. What kind of situation? Ghost was on his phone, his face grim. Just got a call from Razor. David never made it to California. What do you mean, Howard? He got off the bus in Vegas. Razor lost his trail for a few hours. When he found it again, David was heading back east. Back east, where Ghost looked at Sarah, who had gone pale. Ridgewood. He's heading back to Ridgewood. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Why would he go back there? Revenge, maybe. Obsession. Who knows what's going on in that junkie's head? Ghost's expression was dark. But Razor says he's not alone. He met up with some guys in Vegas. Rough looking. Might be Red Devils. Iron felt the blood drain from his face. Red Devils. The same gang that had caused the violence in Ridgewood 5 years ago. The same gang that had given all bikers a bad name in that town. Why would David hook up with the Red Devils? No idea. But if he's bringing them to Ridgewood, it's not for a social visit. Sarah grabbed Iron's arm. Margaret's still there, and Sheriff Warren. All those people who helped us. I know. Iron's mind was racing. We need to warn them. He pulled out his phone and called Margaret's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times, no answer. He tried again, same result. She's not picking up. Try Warren, Bear said. Iron dialed the sheriff's number. It went straight to voicemail. Something's wrong. Sarah's voice was rising with panic. Something's happening there. I can feel it. We don't know anything yet, Iron said, but his gut was telling him she was right. Ghost, how long ago did Razor lose David? 8 hours. And when was he spotted heading east? 5 hours ago. Iron did the math. Vegas to Ridgewood was roughly 12 hours. If David had a head start, he could be there by morning. Or sooner if he's pushing it. Iron looked around the room, at his brothers, at Sarah, at Emma, who was watching with wide eyes. We need to go. Emma stepped forward. Dad, wait. I'm sorry, Emma. I know we just started to fix things, but those people in Ridgewood, they took us in when they had every reason to turn us away. I can't abandon them. I'm not asking you to abandon them. I'm asking you to let me come with you. Iron stared at her. You've spent 20 years running away from responsibility, from family, from me. Emma's jaw set with determination. If you're finally going to start running towards something, I want to be there to see it. Emma, this could be dangerous. If the Red Devils are involved, I don't care. I spent my whole life playing it safe. And where did it get me? A failed marriage, a father I couldn't forgive, and 2 kids who've never seen their mother take a stand for anything. She grabbed his hand. You're my father. For better or worse, after everything, you're still my father. And I'm not letting you ride off into danger alone. Not again. Iron didn't know what to say. His daughter, the one he'd abandoned, the one who had every right to hate him, was offering to stand beside him. Emma, your kids will stay with the neighbors. Mrs. Patterson has been asking to watch them for months. Emma squeezed his hand. Please, Dad, let me do this. Let me be part of your life again. Iron looked at Bear. Bear shrugged. Your call, brother. Iron looked back at Emma, at the fire in her eyes, at the woman she'd become despite everything he'd put her through. Okay, he said, but you ride in the car with Sarah and Lily. And if things get dangerous, you stay back. Promise me. I promise. Iron turned to his brothers. We ride in 30 minutes. Fuel up, gear up, and be ready for anything. They moved like a well-oiled machine. 20 years of brotherhood had taught them how to prepare for battle. Bikes were checked, weapons were secured, routes were planned. Through it all, Iron kept trying Margaret's phone. No answer. He tried Warren. No answer. He tried the hospital's main line. Finally, someone picked up. Ridgewood General, how may I help you? This is Thomas Reed. I'm trying to reach Margaret Chen, head nurse. A pause. Sir, I'm sorry, but Nurse Chen isn't available right now. What do you mean not available? There's been an incident. I'm not authorized to give details over the phone. Iron's blood ran cold. What kind of incident? Sir, I really can't. Listen to me. That woman is my friend. If something's happened to her, I need to know. Right now. Another pause. Then quietly, there was a break-in last night. Several armed men. They came for patient records, specifically records related to a woman named Sarah Anderson. Nurse Chen tried to stop them. Is she okay? She's in the ICU, critical condition. Iron nearly dropped the phone. Bear was beside him in an instant. What? What is it? Margaret, she's hurt. David's men attacked the hospital. Sarah let out a cry. Oh God, this is my fault. It's not your fault. Iron grabbed her shoulders. This is David's doing. David and whoever he's working with. And I swear to you, we're going to stop them. He turned back to the phone. What about Sheriff Warren? The sheriff was called to the scene. I don't know his current status. Is the hospital secure now? The police are here. But sir, these men, they said they'd be back. They said they wanted the woman and the girl. They said what? They said if Sarah Anderson wasn't delivered to them by sundown tomorrow, they'd burn the whole town down. Iron's grip tightened on the phone. Sundown tomorrow. That gave them roughly 18 hours. Tell the police we're coming. Tell them help is on the way. He hung up before the person could respond. They're using Margaret to draw us out, Ghost said. It's a trap. I know it's a trap. And we're still going. Iron looked at Sarah, at Lily who had appeared in the doorway with Marcus, at Emma standing beside him like she'd never left. We're still going. Bear nodded slowly. Then let's ride. They hit the road 15 minutes later. 6 motorcycles, 1 car, a family stitched together by tragedy and held together by something that might, if they were lucky, become love. Behind them, Phoenix disappeared into the darkness. Ahead of them, Ridgewood waited. And somewhere between here and there, a man named David was planning something terrible. Iron didn't know what they'd find when they got there. Didn't know if they'd be in time to save Margaret to stop whatever destruction was coming. But he knew one thing for certain. He was done running. Whatever came next, he'd face it head on. For Lily, for Sarah, for Emma, for the family he'd finally found. They drove through the night without stopping. Iron pushed his bike harder than he'd ever pushed it, eating up the miles like a man possessed. Every minute that passed was another minute Margaret was lying in that hospital bed fighting for her life. Every hour was another hour David had to plan whatever destruction he had in mind. The sun was coming up when they crossed into Montana. Sarah's car had kept pace the whole way, Emma behind the wheel, Sarah beside her, Lily asleep in the back. Iron had checked on them at every gas stop, making sure they were okay, making sure they were still with him. They were, every time. Bear pulled alongside him as they passed the state line. Razor called. The Red Devils set up shop in an abandoned warehouse outside town. 15, maybe 20 of them. And David, he's with them, leading them from what Razor can tell. Leading them, David's a junkie. Since when does he lead anything? Since he started talking about revenge, about the bikers who stole his daughter and humiliated him. Bear's face was grim. He's been telling them the hellsangels are the ones who beat him up, took Lily, threatened to kill him. He's got them thinking this is payback. That's insane. We saved Lily from him. You know that. I know that. They don't know that. And right now, they don't care. They smell blood. Iron's jaw tightened. 20 Red Devils. His crew had 6. The math wasn't good. What about Warren, the police? Razor says Warren's got maybe 10 deputies. They're holding the hospital, but they can't push out. Not with those numbers. Ooh, so we're outnumbered and outgunned. Looks like it. Iron thought about turning around, about telling Sarah and Emma to take Lily somewhere safe while he and his brothers handled this alone. But he knew they wouldn't go. Sarah wouldn't leave Margaret. Emma wouldn't leave him. And Lily, God, that little girl had more courage than most grown men he'd known. We need a plan, Iron said. Working on it. They stopped for gas 20 miles outside Ridgewood. Iron gathered everyone around Sarah's car, mapping out what they knew on a crumpled napkin. The Red Devils are here, he said, pointing. Warehouse on the east side of town. Warren's holding the hospital, but he's pinned down. Margaret's in the ICU. David's ultimatum runs out at sundown. What happens at sundown? Emma asked. They burn the town. Sarah's face went white. They can't. There are children there. Families. David doesn't care. He's past caring. All he wants is to hurt you for taking Lily away from him. But I didn't take her away. He abandoned us. Reason doesn't work with people like David. He's built a story in his head where he's the victim, and nothing we say will change that. Lily tugged on Iron's sleeve. Mr. Iron, can I say something? Iron knelt down to her level. Of course, sweetheart. My daddy's sick, like you said before, the sickness in his head. Her voice was small but steady. But maybe if I talk to him, he'll listen. Maybe he'll remember he loves me. Lily, no. Sarah pulled her daughter close. I'm not letting you anywhere near him. But Mommy, oh, no, that's final. Lily's face crumpled, but she didn't argue. Iron felt something twist in his chest. This little girl wanting to save her father even after everything he'd done, wanting to believe that love could fix what was broken. He wished he could tell her she was right, but he knew better. Here's the plan, Iron said. Bear Ghost and I will approach the warehouse. Try to talk to David, buy time. Buy time for what? Diesel asked. For the rest of you to get into the hospital, link up with Warren, reinforce his position. And if talking doesn't work, Iron met his brother's eyes, then we do what we have to do. They rolled into Ridgewood at noon. The town looked different. Shuttered windows, empty streets, the kind of quiet that comes when people are hiding, waiting for something terrible to happen. Iron split off from the group at the edge of town. Bear and Ghost followed him toward the warehouse. The others, Diesel, Monk, Razor, Emma, Sarah, and Lily, headed for the hospital. The warehouse loomed ahead of them, rusted and forgotten. Motorcycles lined the front, Red Devil bikes, chrome and crimson, gleaming despite the rust around them. Iron stopped his bike 50 feet from the entrance. Killed the engine. You sure about this? Bear asked quietly. No, but I'm out of other options. He dismounted and walked toward the warehouse. His hands were empty, raised slightly, showing he wasn't armed. The door opened before he reached it. David stepped out. He looked worse than before, thinner, paler, with dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and chemical abuse. But there was something new in his expression. Something dangerous. Thomas Reed? David smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The great Iron, come to save the day again. I came to talk. Talk, David laughed. And you came all this way to talk. That's cute. Really, it is. He gestured behind him. Boys, come say hello. Men emerged from the warehouse. 15, 20, 25. More than Razor had estimated. They fanned out behind David, a wall of leather and menace. Iron didn't flinch. This doesn't have to end in violence, David. Doesn't it? You humiliated me, beat me in front of my own daughter, turned her against me. Your daughter was already terrified of you. All I did was get her somewhere safe. Safe, David's voice cracked. She's my daughter. Mine. I was trying to protect her from that woman, from that whole poisonous life, and you took her away from me. You kidnapped her, David. You hit her. She had a bruise on her face when I found her. I was disciplining her. She wouldn't stop crying. She was crying because you scared her. David's face contorted. You don't understand. None of you understand. I love Lily. I've always loved her. Everything I've done for her. Iron took a step closer. Then prove it. Walk away. Let these people go. If you really love Lily, you won't burn down a town full of innocent people just to get revenge on me. Innocent, David spat. Nobody's innocent. That sheriff tried to throw me in jail. That nurse called the cops on me. This whole town treated me like a criminal when I was just trying to get my daughter back. Because you took her from a hospital room in the middle of the night. What did you expect them to do? David's hand went to his waistband. Iron tensed. I expected them to understand. I expected them to see that I was her father, that I had rights. Rights don't give you permission to terrorize people. No. Then what does... David pulled a gun and pointed it at Iron's chest. Does this give me permission? Bear and Ghost moved forward. The Red Devils raised their weapons. Don't, Iron said, not moving. Everyone stay calm. Calm, David laughed again, wild, unhinged. You want me to be calm? My daughter is gone. My wife, my ex-wife, turned her against me. The whole world thinks I'm some kind of monster. And you want me to be calm. I want you to think, David, really think about what you're doing. If you kill me, what happens to Lily? You think she'll ever forgive you? You think she'll ever look at you and see a father instead of a murderer? David's hand was shaking. The gun wavered. She'll understand when she's older. She'll understand I did it for her, Burr. No, David, she won't. She'll spend the rest of her life wondering why her father became a killer, why he couldn't just let go and move on. Iron took another step forward. I know, because that's what my daughter spent 20 years wondering about me. David blinked. What? I left my daughter when she was Lily's age. Walked out and never came back. Spent 2 decades telling myself it was for her own good. But the truth is, I was just running from responsibility. Running from the hard work of being a father. Iron's voice softened. I see myself in you, David. The fear, the desperation, the conviction that you're doing the right thing when really you're just making everything worse. You don't know anything about me. I know you're scared. I know you feel like you've lost everything. I know you think this is the only way to get it back. Iron met David's eyes. But it's not. There's another way. What way? You put down the gun. You come with me. You get help, real help, not whatever you've been doing to yourself. And you start the long, hard work of proving to Lily that you can be the father she deserves. David's lip trembled. For a moment, just a moment, Iron saw the man he might have been. The man who'd held his newborn daughter and promised to protect her forever. Then the moment passed. It's too late for that, David said. It's too late for anything. He raised the gun. Iron dove to the side. The shot went wide, slamming into the dirt behind him. Bear and Ghost opened fire, not at David, but at the ground in front of the Red Devils, forcing them back. Move! Iron shouted. They ran for their bikes. Bullets whizzed past them. An engine roared to life. Then another. Iron kicked his bike into gear and tore out of there, Bear and Ghost right behind him. The Red Devils gave chase, but Iron knew these roads. He'd ridden them when he brought Lily to the hospital. He knew every turn, every shortcut. They lost the pursuit after 5 minutes ducking into an alley and killing their engines. Iron pressed himself against the wall, breathing hard. That went well, the Ghost said dryly, and shut up. So what now? We can't talk him down. He's too far gone. Iron pulled out his phone, dialed Warren's number. This time the sheriff answered. Reed, where the hell are you? In town. We tried to negotiate with David. It didn't work. No kidding. We got reports of gunfire on the east side. That was us. Listen, Warren David's got more men than we thought. 25, maybe 30. And he's not going to stop. What do you suggest? Iron thought fast. They were outgunned, outmanned. A straight fight would be suicide, but maybe they didn't need a straight fight. David wants Sarah. That's what this is really about. His obsession with her and Lily. You're not suggesting we hand them over. No. But what if David thought what if we set up a meeting made him think he was getting what he wanted? A trap. Exactly. Draw him out of the warehouse, away from his backup. Then we hit him with everything we've got. Warren was silent for a moment. That's risky. If he figures out what we're doing, he won't. He's too far gone to think straight. All he can see is Sarah and Lily. Dangle them in front of him and he'll come running. And when he does, we end this. The plan came together in 20 minutes. Sarah didn't like it. Neither did Emma. But they understood this was the only way. Iron called David from a burner phone. What do you want? David's voice was suspicious. I want to make a deal. A deal after you tried to kill me. You shot first, David. I was just defending myself. Iron kept his voice calm. But that doesn't matter now. What matters is I've got something you want. Sarah and Lily, they're with me right now. A pause. You're lying. I'm not. Ask them yourself. Iron held the phone towards Sarah. David, Sarah's voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. It's me. Sarah. David's voice changed softer, almost tender. Baby, I've missed you so much. I've been trying to find you to talk to you. I know, David. And I think we need to talk. Face to face. Really. Really, but not with all those men around. Just you and me, like it used to be. David was breathing hard now. Iron could hear it through the phone. Where? The old church on the edge of town. 1 hour. Come alone, and we'll talk. Bring your army, and you'll never see me or Lily again. A long silence. 1 hour, David said. And Sarah, if this is a trick, I'll burn this whole town to the ground. I swear to God I will. It's not a trick, David. I just want to talk. The line went dead. Iron looked at Sarah. You okay? No, she was shaking. But I'll hold it together. For Lily, for everyone. You won't be alone. We'll be watching the whole time. And if he doesn't come alone, then we improvise. The church stood at the edge of Ridgewood, old and weathered, but still standing. Iron positioned his brothers around the perimeter, Bear in the bell tower, with a rifle ghost and Diesel behind the cemetery stones, Monk and Razor covering the road. Warren had deputies stationed further out, ready to move in once David was isolated. Sarah waited inside the church, alone. That was the part Iron hated most, the risk she was taking. But Sarah had insisted. He won't hurt me, she'd said. Whatever else David is, he still thinks he loves me. That's the one thing I can count on. Iron wasn't so sure, but he'd learned something about Sarah in the past week. Once she made up her mind, there was no changing it. The hour passed slowly, then a single motorcycle appeared on the road. Iron watched through binoculars as David approached the church. He was alone, no backup, no red devils. Just one man on one bike coming to reclaim the family he'd lost. David stopped in front of the church, got off his bike, looked around. Sarah, he called, I'm here. I came alone just like you asked. The church door opened. Sarah stepped out. Hello, David. David's face transformed. The anger, the paranoia, the violence, all of it melted away, replaced by something that almost looked like hope. God, Sarah, you look beautiful. Thank you. He moved toward her. I've missed you so much every day. Every single day I thought about you and Lily, about the life we were supposed to have. I know, David. Then why did you leave? Why did you take her away from me? Sarah's voice was gentle, sad. You know why. The drugs, the disappearing for days at a time, the lies. I couldn't raise Lily in that environment. I was trying to get better. You weren't David, and deep down you know that. His face twisted. So it's my fault, everything that happened? It's my fault. It's nobody's fault. Addiction is a disease, but you refused to get help, and I had to protect our daughter. By taking her away from me, by turning her against me. I never turned her against you. She loves you, David. Even now, after everything, she still loves you. David's eyes filled with tears. Then let me see her, please, Sarah. Just let me see my little girl. Bear hesitated. This was the moment when everything could go right or terribly wrong. She's inside, Sarah said. But David, you have to promise me something. Anything. You have to promise to get help, real help, a treatment program, therapy, whatever it takes to get better. She took his hands. If you do that, if you really commit to changing, I'll make sure you're part of Lily's life, not like this, not through kidnapping and violence, but the right way. David stared at her. The hope in his eyes was almost painful to see. You mean it? I mean it. But you have to let go of this anger. You have to tell those men to leave. Can you do that? For a moment, one brief shining moment, Iron thought it might actually work. That David might choose peace over destruction. Then David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His face changed. You lying bitch! David! He grabbed her arm, twisted it behind her back. You think I'm stupid? You think I wouldn't have someone watching? My boys just spotted your boyfriend's crew around the perimeter. David, please. He pulled the gun, pressed it to Sarah's head. Everybody out, he screamed. I know you're there. Come out or I blow her brains out. Iron's heart stopped. He had seconds to make a decision. Step out and lose their advantage. Stay hidden and risk Sarah's life. It wasn't really a choice. He stood up from behind the cemetery stones, raised his hands. Let her go, David. You set me up. You made her lie to me. She wasn't lying. Everything she said was true. She was offering you a chance. A chance with snipers pointing at my head. What kind of chance is that? The only kind we could give you. You brought an army to destroy this town. Did you expect us to trust you? David's hand was shaking. The gun wavered against Sarah's temple. I trusted her. I trusted Sarah. And she trusted you, David. She walked into this church alone because she really believed that you could change, that you could be the man she married. I am that man. Then prove it. Let her go. Walk away. I can't walk away, not after everything I've done. The Red Devils, they'll kill me if I don't deliver. We'll protect you. David laughed a broken, desperate sound. Protect me, the Hell's Angels, protecting me, that's rich. We protected your daughter. We protected Sarah. We can protect you too. Why would you do that? Iron took a step closer. Because 20 years ago, I made the same choice you're making right now. I chose anger over love, fear over family, and I've spent every day since regretting it. Another step. Don't make my mistake, David. Don't throw away the only thing that really matters. David's eyes were wild, desperate. The gun trembled against Sarah's head. I don't know how to stop. Yes, you do. You just have to choose to. Silence, one moment. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly David lowered the gun. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sarah, I'm so sorry. Sarah was crying. I know, David. I know. Iron moved forward carefully. Give me the gun, David. David looked at the weapon in his hand, then at Sarah, then at Iron. He turned the gun around and offered it handle first. Iron took it. It's over, he said. The Red Devils showed up 10 minutes later. They came in force, every man, every bike roaring into the church grounds like a storm. Their leader, a massive man with a skull tattooed on his face, dismounted first. David, what the hell is going on? David stood beside Iron, his hands cuffed in front of him. Warren's deputies were already loading him into a squad car. It's over, Marcus. I'm turning myself in. Like hell you are. We had a deal. The deal's off. I was wrong about all of this. Marcus's face contorted with rage. You spineless piece of shit. You bring us all the way out here, promise us payback, and then you just quit. I'm not quitting. I'm choosing. There's a difference, Vashek. Marcus pulled his gun. There's only one way you're leaving here, traitor. Before he could fire a shot rang out from the bell tower. The gun flew from Marcus's hand and he screamed, clutching his bleeding fingers. Bear's voice echoed across the grounds. Next one goes in your head. The Red Devils froze. Iron stepped forward. You've got a choice to make. You can take your wounded leader and ride out of here, or you can die in a church parking lot for a man who just surrendered. What's it going to be? Marcus looked at his bleeding hand, at the deputies surrounding them, at the Hell's Angels emerging from their hiding spots. This isn't over, he spat. Yeah, it is. Go home and tell whoever sent you that Ridgewood is under our protection now. Anyone who messes with this town answers to us. Marcus held Iron's gaze for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to his bike. One by one, the Red Devils followed. They disappeared down the road, leaving nothing but dust and silence. Iron let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. It was over. 3 weeks later, Iron stood in a hospital room watching Margaret Chen argue with a nurse. I've been in this bed for 3 weeks. 3 weeks I'm perfectly capable of walking to the bathroom by myself. Mrs. Chen, doctor's orders. Doctor's orders can kiss my ma. Margaret spotted Iron and stopped. Well, look who finally came to visit. Iron smiled. I've visited every day. While I was unconscious, that doesn't count. He walked over and took her hand. How are you feeling? Like I got shot twice and lived to complain about it. But her eyes softened. I heard what you did, standing down David, getting the Red Devils to leave. They're saying you saved the whole town. Warren's deputies did most of the work. Don't be modest. It doesn't suit you. Iron laughed. It felt good to laugh. It felt good to feel anything besides fear and guilt and anger. Sarah and Lily have been asking about you, he said. They want to visit. Send them in. That little girl owes me a story. She promised to tell me about her stuffed rabbit, and I'm holding her to it. I'll let them know. Iron turned to leave, but Margaret's voice stopped him. Thomas, he looked back. She was studying him with those sharp, knowing eyes. I've been a nurse for 40 years. I've seen a lot of people walk through those doors, some good, some bad, most somewhere in between. But I've never seen anyone change as much as you have in the past month. I haven't changed that much. You came into this town a man running from his past. Now you're standing still, building something. That's not nothing. Iron didn't know what to say, so he just nodded and walked out. Outside the room, Emma was waiting. How is she? Ornery as ever, I think she'll be fine. Emma smiled. It was still tentative, still guarded, but it was real. They'd spent the past 3 weeks getting to know each other again, talking, arguing, slowly, painfully rebuilding what had been destroyed. It wasn't easy. Some days Emma could barely look at him. Other days she'd seek him out, wanting to hear stories about his life, about the club, about the man he'd become. Iron didn't rush it. He'd waited 20 years. He could wait a little longer. Sarah's looking for you, Emma said. She's got news. What kind of news? The kind you should hear from her. Iron found Sarah in the hospital courtyard watching Lily play with Marcus and little Lily, Emma's children. The three kids had become inseparable over the past few weeks, running around together like they'd known each other their whole lives. Sarah looked up when he approached. Hey, Emma said you wanted to see me. I did. She patted the bench beside him. Sit down. He sat. For a moment, they just watched the children play. The house sold, Sarah said finally. Your house back home. Yeah, I got a good price, enough to start over somewhere new. Where? Sarah turned to look at him. I was thinking here, Ridgewood. Margaret needs help running the hospital. She's not getting any younger. And Lily loves it here. She says this is where her angels live. Iron felt something warm spread through his chest. That's great, Sarah. There's something else. What? Sarah took a deep breath. I've been thinking about what you said, about running, about being scared, about not being alone anymore. She reached over and took his hand. I don't want to be alone anymore, Iron, and I don't think you do either. Iron stared at their intertwined fingers. Sarah, I'm not a good man. I've done things. I know what you've done. I know who you are, and I'm not asking you to be perfect. She squeezed his hand. I'm asking you to be here, to try, to be part of something bigger than yourself. Iron looked at Lily laughing as Marcus chased her around a tree, at Emma walking toward them with a smile on her face, at Bear and Ghost leaning against their bikes near the parking lot, watching over their strange little family like guardian angels. I'd like that, he said. I'd like that a lot. Sarah leaned in and kissed him soft and gentle and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Lily was standing in front of them, her face split in a huge grin. Does this mean Mr. Iron is going to be my new daddy? Sarah laughed. It's a little more complicated than that, sweetie. But he'll be around, right? He won't leave like my other daddy. Iron knelt down to Lily's level. He thought about all the promises he'd broken in his life, all the people he'd let down, all the damage he'd done. But he also thought about the promises he'd kept, the lives he'd saved, the man he was becoming. I'm not going anywhere, he said. I promise. Lily threw her arms around his neck. I knew it. I knew you'd stay. How did you know? She pulled back and looked at him with those voice ancient eyes. Because you're my angel, and angels always protect the people they love. Iron hugged her tight. Over her shoulder, he saw his brothers watching. Saw Emma standing beside Sarah, both of them smiling. Saw the town of Ridgewood spreading out around them, a town that had once hated bikers, now welcoming them as family. He thought about Danny's last words. Tell my son I loved him. Tell him I tried to be better. He'd finally done it. He'd finally delivered that message, not to Danny's son, but to his own daughter. To a little girl who believed in angels. To a town that had learned to see past leather and tattoos. And to himself. Years later, people would tell the story. They'd tell it in bars and churches, at dinner tables and campfires. The story of a little girl who screamed for her mother on a stormy night. The story of 6 bikers who stopped to help. The story of a man named Iron who finally learned what it meant to be strong. They talk about Margaret, who recovered fully and ran that hospital for another 15 years. About Sheriff Warren, who became a fierce advocate for second chances. About Sarah and Iron, who built a life together in that small Montana town. They talk about Emma, who forgave her father and watched him become the grandfather her children deserved. About Lily, who grew up knowing she was loved by a family bigger than blood. And they'd talk about the hellsangels, the outlaws, the criminals, the men the world had written off, who proved that courage comes in all forms, and heroes wear all kinds of armor. But mostly they'd talk about the truth at the heart of the story. That sometimes the angels who save us don't have wings or halos. Sometimes they have leather jackets and motorcycles and hearts that refuse to give up. And sometimes, just sometimes, the people the world calls monsters turn out to be the ones who save us all. Thomas Reed never ran again. He stayed in Ridgewood surrounded by the family he'd found and the family he'd made. He watched Lily grow up strong and kind and fearless. He held Emma's hand at her second wedding, this time to a man who deserved her. He bounced grandchildren on his knee and told them stories of the open road. And every year on the anniversary of that stormy night, he'd ride out to the spot where it all began. He'd stand beside the tree where Sarah's car had crashed, where a little girl had screamed for her mother, where everything had changed. He'd pull out the worn photograph from his wallet, not of Emma anymore, but of all of them, his whole family, blood and chosen alike. And he'd say the words he'd carried for 20 years, the words Danny had asked him to deliver, the words that had finally set him free. I love you, I tried to be better, and I'm not running anymore. Because in the end, that's what mattered. Not the mistakes you made, not the people you hurt, not the years you wasted. What mattered was the moment you stopped running, the moment you turned around, the moment you chose to stay. Iron had made his choice, and he'd never regretted it, not for one single day.